7, the Kings taking on the Golden State Warriors. Steph Curry, 28 points in each of his last 4 games. And on the other side, De'Aaron Fox, he has that broken index finger on his shooting hand, but that hasn't stopped him from getting 20-plus points in each of his 6 games so far in this first round. Welcome on into Playoff Central Live. I'm Lauren Jabara. That's Dennis Scott, 3D, 2.5D maybe, as we like to call him now. Because he hasn't been here in 2 weeks. We're welcoming him back to the show, back from South Africa. How are you? It's good to see you in person.
Good to be here. I know I missed a few games, had a lot of fun. And like you said, Jimmy Boy's been playing well, De'Aaron Fox, Steph Curry reminding everybody, as long as I'm on the court, my team still has a chance. Well,
before we get into basketball, we have to ask you about your trip. You were gone for 2 weeks in South Africa, and I feel like you've done it all because you're almost a college graduate and almost a graduate student graduate. Guys, we got a smart guy on our hands right now, but how was your trip? Tell us about it.
It was a great trip. I don't even know where to start. Well, first I have to start thanking the president of Georgia Tech, Mr. Cabrera, just putting that trip together for all of us IMBA students. Going over to South Africa, Johannesburg, Cape Town, visiting different businesses, school. Big shout out to Masai Ujiri, who set that up. I had a chance to go see NBA Africa office. My man Frank to my right took me around Johannesburg, showed me around. Just a fun trip for me personally, because you've heard so much about Africa, but until you lay your eyes on it and see it personally and walk around and meet the people, it was great.
What was, I say, your favorite part? I know you were there for 13, 14 days, so it's probably hard to narrow down to one thing.
No,
what would you say is the best part?
It's a safari. Being able to go out there and see the animals. Got lucky seeing the hippos, seeing the lions, and all that kind of stuff. Because I'm a huge National Geographic Channel fan, so I watch that channel a lot. So to be out there early in the morning and to hear all the crazy sounds, stuff you see on TV and reality, so it was life-changing.
Did you see a lion?
Yes, of course.
Oh, my God.
I sent I don't know if they're going to show the video. So I sent a whole lot of stuff. The hippo, it's just stuff that, once again, you see it on TV, you see it as a kid, but once you're out there at 5 o'clock in the morning, you're on those trucks, you're riding around, you're cold, you're like, man, take me back to the hotel if something crazy happened. But no, it was a lot of fun.
That's so much fun. Well, we're so excited to have you back. It hasn't been same here in the studio without you. So
let's do it.
2.5D, 3D, whatever you want to call him. He's back and better than ever, baby. You want to know who else is better than ever? The Sacramento Kings. Let's send it back out to Sacramento. Hear from head coach Mike Brown.
I think our guys are ready. I feel like our guys are going to compete at a high level and leave it out on the floor. But Golden State's been through plenty of Game 7s. They've been through plenty of big situations. They're going to come out fighting. They're going to come out swinging, and their backs are against the wall. And a lot of times that's when people in general usually perform at their best.
We've won a Game 7 on the road before in the playoffs. We know we can do it, but we've got to regroup and fill up the cup and get our energy ready for Sunday afternoon.
Luckily for us, we still have another crack at it. I still have absolute belief in this team that we can go get it done on the road. It will be a tall task, but we will respond like the champions we are.
Play with a sense of desperation, but a sense of, I use the word composure, because that is, you don't want to get too riled up and get outside of yourself. Like I said, it's just basketball. We know what to do. We have an identity of who we are when we're playing our best basketball, and if we can find that, I like our chances.
Let's bring in Sam Amick now, senior NBA writer for The Athletic. Sam, first of all, before we get into the game, how you doing?
Good, Lauren, 3D. Thank you guys for having me. We were talking off air. It's a little strange to be at the arena this early, but we're ready to go. Game 7.
Yeah, it's going to be so exciting. We're looking forward to it. I want to talk about the energy right now around Sacramento. This is the first time they got a win at Golden State since 2000. Only the third time in franchise history that they're hosting a Game 7. What's the energy been like around the city?
You can imagine 17 years of angst not being in the playoffs. Game 1, to me, was far and away the loudest, craziest environment in this setting, and I think Game 7 is going to be pretty similar. In between, it was loud. It was on a different level, but you kind of saw the tapering off a bit. After Game 6, to give you an idea, I'm in the Kings visiting locker room at Chase Center, and I actually talked to Domantas Sabonis and some of the guys about how on social media there were pictures of the fans flooding Golden 1 back in Sacramento just to watch that beam go up because the Kings had won that road game and brought it back. And obviously today it's just going to be crazy.
You know what? We've seen this situation before. We put so much pressure on the players. They haven't been there before. But their leader, Mike Brown, he's been there. He's been right next to Steve Kerr. Is that an advantage or disadvantage knowing kind of what your former coach is thinking about?
3D, I think it's a huge advantage. It's funny because Mike, all throughout this series, has been laying in the weeds a little bit in terms of how he handles his media. Every time he gets asked about the history with the Warriors and whether or not it's an advantage, he almost plays dumb. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. They know me as much as I know them. But I have heard plenty of things behind the scenes in terms of how Mike has implemented that insight with his group. To give you one quick example, Draymond Green being such an intense player and a guy who fuels the Warriors, Mike's been telling his guys, like, do not add energy to that man. And so every time you see guys maybe think about trash talking with Draymond, think about going down this road, that's just one little example of a time when Mike says, I think the best path to success is to just kind of beat them quietly and keep playing and get back to your identity. And I got to be honest, I was surprised that they were able to do that as well as they were in Game 6. And then, we'll see if they can do it on this kind of stage in Game 7.
Talk about De'Aaron Fox for a second, because this is a guy, he has a broken index finger on his shooting hand, and he still managed to average over 20 points per game every single game so far throughout this series. He tied Oscar Robertson for the longest ever streak in NBA history for a career franchise. How important has he been, and how has he been able to elevate the Kings' play in the way that he has?
He's just been an absolute superstar, and again, I got to admit, I'm surprised that he's gotten to this level. If you go back about a year ago, guys, they do that Tyrese Halliburton trade with Indiana, and it was a bit of a fork in the road. Are we building around Halliburton? Are we building around Fox? And they make their move. There was a lot of people questioning if that was the right way to go. And now you see the clutch play. You see the consistent playoff performances. This regular season, Domantas Sabonis, in my opinion, was probably the most valuable player on the Kings. Now that script has been flipped. De'Aaron's been killing it, and then he breaks the finger. I mean, this is the same injury that Kobe Bryant played through back in 2010, but that's Kobe. We expected that kind of a grit from Kobe and an excellence from Kobe. To see De'Aaron fight through that and have this team still in the series, to me, is incredible.
It's amazing you bring up the name Kobe. So let's go to the Warriors. Who has that Kobe performance? Is it Steph? Is it Clay? Does Poole finally have a pool party and really explode because he hadn't had one of those pool type of games? Right. Who's that guy for the Warriors tonight?
Dennis, I think it's got to be Steph. Steph's had a really good series. I think mentally, poise-wise, competitiveness-wise, he has been the steadiest. That Game 6 felt like Steph was doing Steph things, and late in the third quarter, he looks around and is kind of that vibe of like, guys, is anybody coming with me today? And they weren't, so they got run off the floor. But Steph has been really good. I just wonder, in terms of the psyche of a game like this, you hear Klay Thompson in that press conference talk about we're going to play like the champions that we are. The Warriors, if they're going to win this game, they got to stay in the present and realize that, like, there's nothing given because you won those 4 chips. And I think that's one part of their challenge mentally, is that idea that, well, because we've done this before so many times, that's going to get us through. That's not the case. The Kings obviously are not afraid of the moment. And to me, I mean, as long as I've been doing this, Game 7s never get old. And the young and old contrast of this game, I think, is just awesome.
Sam, we so appreciate you taking the time. Make sure you get yourself some breakfast out there. It's going to be a long day, okay?
Yeah, you better enjoy it.
I got the coffee right here.
It's been a long time, baby.
We're ready to roll. Thank you, guys. Enjoy it.
Sam Amick, we so appreciate the time. Let's elaborate on De'Aaron Fox a little bit more, because
Swipe the Fox.
This is a guy that has come in, his first ever postseason experience, and he's averaging just under 30 points per game on 44.5% shooting. How is he so good?
Well, he believes in himself, once for all. He puts in the work. And last but not least, for all those people that said, oh, why you give him that contract? Well, I don't hear those guys now. So you hear a lot of the guys on TV somehow slow down the ball, stop the ball. Well, he's so good in transition. Once you do that, he's willing to share. You get easy buckets. But now you're in the half-court set. Ball movement, player movement. Mike Brown done an excellent job getting guys moving around. Now it's about sharing the basketball. Kayvon Looney's in the paint because he might drive. No, Sabonis has that 3-ball corner pocket, hand down, man down, as Mark Jackson likes to say. Now you're in a half-court set. Now he's moving without the ball like Steph Curry a little bit, but understanding that the lane is still the most important part. On the field, should I say the court, you attack. Now he's catching and shooting, leave it, shooter's paradise from the corner. But anytime De'Aaron Fox is in the half-court section, you have to understand that he wants to attack that paint. The defense will help. But look at this one, Laura. Keep the dribble alive, get all the way to the rim, and the left hand stays alive because he's left-handed. But the point is, he understands he has to stay in attack mode. You look at the shot chart. When in doubt, he wants to get in the paint. He will shoot an occasional 3, but at the end of the day, with the broken finger, he has to stay in attack mode.
And he's doing it, and he's doing it extremely well, willing his team's wins. They forced a Game 7, only the third time in franchise history. They're going to be playing for a Game 7 in Sacramento. Pretty incredible. Then you look at the other side, the Warriors, they have had quite a dynasty over the last couple of years. Since 2015, they're 22-11 in closeout games. Does that dynasty end tonight? Or today, I guess, with a 3:30 p.m. tip?
I don't want to bet against the Warriors because, me being a shooter and love all the shooting with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson that changed the game from a jump shooting standpoint. They've proven that if you put the effort on the defensive end of the floor, Draymond's been that leader. But the way Sacramento's playing, I think it's their turn. I'm going to say it now. I think it's their turn, people. I think De'Aaron Fox is playing great basketball. Murray, Sabonis. I like asking Sam that question. Mike Brown's been there before.
Yeah.
Been there with Cleveland. Been there with the Lakers. Been there now with the Warriors. He understands what it takes. I like what they're doing.
Been there, done that. Sacramento took 13 more shots than the Warriors in Game 6. We'll see what happens with a home crowd in Game 7. Time for our first break here on Playoff Central Live. Coming up after the first game.